Hey, Alfred Street family and friends, grace and peace be unto you from God who loves us as mother and father, and Jesus Christ who always and alone is our resurrected, our risen, our reigning, and our returning Redeemer. I'm Pastor Wesley, and I am grateful that you've chosen to log on and tune in to another episode of Meet the Street. I've been telling you all since I got here that Alfred Street is filled with some amazing people. People who are doing some amazing things Monday through Friday in the world. And they come to Alfred Street just want the anonymity of being able to sit, to worship God, and grow in their faith. But how they grow in their faith on Sunday affects what they do in the world. And throughout these series, we're just trying to introduce you to some of them to share their stories, and particularly how their faith and walk with God has shaped who they are. And I'm excited to bring on a married couple from Alfred Street who are definitely worth you knowing. Robert Burton, Jeannette Reyes, welcome to Meet the Street.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Honored to be here.
Yeah.
Glad to have you both. Listen, I got to say this all the time, right? I tell people Alfred Street is everywhere. If you're ever out and about and you see somebody black, you ought to assume they go to Alfred Street Baptist Church, right? That's the safest way to act.
Yeah.
But I see you all when I turn on the television.
Yeah.
And every time I do, there's this pride of going, those are members of our church. They're a married couple.
Yeah.
They exemplify black excellence and love. And I am thrilled to have you all on today. So welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, so
thank
glad
you.
to be
We
here.
were excited when we got the invitation. So
Yeah,
thank you.
honored.
So we're going to talk about where you all are and where you're headed, what's next. But we always start with a little background, where you're from. Tell us individually where you're born and the road that led to you being in front of the camera, where you are right now. I would start with Robert because he and I have a connection.
Yeah. There we go.
We go back to where God begins great things.
Right,
Yes.
right. South side of Chicago.
Hey!
You know, there we go. I was born in Chicago, Illinois, 8728 South Calumet, but 87 for all my Chicago people. Chatham.
Hey, man, I'm on 81st, man.
Chatham, there we go.
Yeah.
And then, went to high school, home at Flossmoor High School in Flossmoor, Illinois. And, I guess I'll just skip right to the TV thing, really, is, so speaking of Chicago, I had an auntie on television my whole life, Cheryl Burton, ABC 7 News in Chicago. So the news was on in my house my entire life. It was always every day at 5, 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock. My auntie was on TV. So I was just around it. I was in the studio a lot, down on State Street. So it was almost like I was sort of destined to be in this field.
Your uncle's also
my uncle. And at the time, she was married to Jim Rose, who was a longtime sports anchor.
Yeah.
He just retired, so shout out to him. But that was someone that I also idolized. He was like my blueprint, for being on air. Because originally I wanted to be a sports anchor. So they were married a long time ago. So he was like my uncle at the time. So I was around him. I was around her. Like I said, the TV was always on ABC 7 Chicago in my house. I was always in the studio. So it just seemed like that was almost what I was supposed to do if I didn't make it to the league. So
Basketball was in there somewhere, right?
Right. Basketball was the number one thing, but that was the fallback. And my mom would always say, if you never, make it to the NBA, you could always talk about it, on TV.
So Robert, let me say particularly, I want to know a little bit about the academic journey and then the beginnings of the career.
Yeah.
And it's a personal note because my son's a basketball player,
Right.
but he's now in mass media. He wants to one day do sports journalism and kind of wind up where you are. He's coming for your job, man.
Right. You know what? Hey, look, man, that's what I always say. He should take it too. But and he's in the right field.
Okay.
He's in the right field because that's what I studied. I studied communications, mass media concentration.
Okay.
And I'll say this is the honest moment here. I didn't always want to be on TV, but I think it's just where God pushed me because my dad owns an IT company. And one of the branches of that company was a media branch. And in that media branch, we had, we had time on cable access. And one of the shows, me and my brother had a show where we talked about current events. So originally, I was the producer of the show, and my brother was the host. And then one day, I just said, you know what? Why don't I just try to be the host? Why don't I be on air? And
I knocked it out the park.
That's good. You know? No. And it just kind of stayed with me.
Okay.
So I ended up going to college, played ball for 3.5 years, graduated a semester early, played ball for 3.5 years, but my major was communications.
Where'd you start out?
Media.
Yeah, where'd you start out? Where does college lead you? So what door does that open?
So my first job was WAND TV in Decatur, Illinois.
Oh, that's a big market, man.
Decatur, Illinois. The top of the top, right? You know? No, but Decatur, Illinois is, let's just say there's 210 news markets in the country. Decatur, Illinois is like 90.
Okay.
So probably no one watching this even knows where Decatur, Illinois is.
I do.
Besides you. Besides you, my fellow Illinois guy. So, but yeah, and the way I got that job was I had made a demo tape. And there was a career fair at my Millikan University. There was a career fair at that school. And my mom said, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take your demo tapes. You're going to drive 2.5 hours to that career fair. And you're going to pass out your tape, okay? Your WAND is going to be at that career fair. You're going to give them your tape. I didn't want to do it. I didn't feel like it. I was being lazy. I was like, it's 2.5 hours away. I'm probably not going to get the job. She said, you're going. I got in the car, drove 2.5 hours, gave my demo tape to 2 ladies, Carol and Kelly, who work for WAND TV. They took my tape, they gave it to the news director there, and I got the job.
Wow. What job? So where'd you?
So it was a job to be an overnight video editor. Okay. It wasn't on air. It was an editor. So
there's a lesson there.
There's a lesson.
You got to get your foot in the door.
You got to get your foot in the door.
Yeah. Right.
So I was in there. I wasn't a reporter. I didn't do sports or anything like that. So it was overnight. So I had to get to the station at probably 11:30 midnight, and I was editing the video, putting the video together for the morning show. So from there, long story short, because I'm a little long-winded, so she likes me to get to the point. But from there,
land the plane, Robert. Land the plane.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So from there editing, I went to reporter, and then from there, I got a sports anchor job in Little Rock, Arkansas. That's where I met JR, and then she got a job in D.C., where I am now, WJLA TV in Washington, D.C. And then when she got there, she was pushing my tape. And then
I did what they told me not to do. Do not try, go to the news director to get your boyfriend a job.
Oh, really?
And what did I do? At the time. She did exactly what she wasn't supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it got me the job.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, that's where I am today. That's how I got here.
We're going to get to you, Jeannette, in a minute, but you said something both that I think is really important, probably in your field, but also in others, because I can assume it's highly competitive, right? And that very few people land in front of the camera, very few people become anchors, but you made the comment, you got to get your foot in the door. You know, one of my favorite verses of scripture is in Zechariah that says, cursed is the person who hates the day of small beginnings. That if you can't appreciate a small opportunity, very rarely will a big door open for you. Is it frustrating starting down, really starting at the bottom? But now we're at the top. I mean, but, how frustrating is that? And how does one endure, realizing, man, I'm editing videos.
Yeah. Well, I'll start by saying, if you know that you're destined for great things, if you know that this is a means to an end, that this is just what you're doing to get to where you're going, then you should be at peace with that.
Yeah.
You go into this business knowing, you hear it all the time, you go into this business knowing you're going to be broke starting out.
Wow.
Your lights are going to get shut out. Yeah.
We knew the lady at the light company. Hey, Sandra, how are you doing?
Right? We knew her.
A little break.
Right.
So, yeah. But
I think also knowing, because obviously you have people who you look up to, and if you look into their history, whether it's Oprah, whether it's, other folks who've made it big, they started out small. His aunt, they started out small. And I think if you go in ignorant of the history of the greats, you think they started out on top.
Right.
So you think, this is not where I should be. I should be starting up there. And there's a lot of people who are really, really good who I see missing out on great opportunities because they don't want to start out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, that's really what it is. You have to go to, I mean, I'm from Rhode Island and I started out in Little Rock, Arkansas. I mean, talk about culture shock. You're away from your family. You're broke. You're working all the holidays. I remember at one point I just had to uninstall Instagram because you're just looking at everybody having a grand old time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think sometimes you got to shut out the noise because it'll make you start questioning the path that you're on when that's you paying your dues. And you don't want to miss out on the fruits of that labor because boy, is it worth it, right? In the end. And I think you enjoy your success so much more. And for us, we're fortunate to be able to enjoy it together because we can look back on those rough times when we barely had it. We would go to IHOP like, we ain't got no business.
We had no business at
We don't
IHOP.
have the money.
We had no business at Popeyes.
IHOP.
Yeah.
I can't even take a girl to Cheesecake Factory. Y'all going out to IHOP.
Right. So yeah, I think with kids these days, especially because of social media, like I think you are inundated more so than before with people's highlight reels.
Yeah.
That I understand how much harder it is now, I think, to start at the bottom and pay your dues because it just seems like everybody's starting out on top.
Yeah.
And to be able to just cut that out and focus is great. Having a mentor is really helpful. And having other people who are also grinding with you is helpful.
You know, one of the things I share with people that I have an opportunity to talk about, even my own journey, is that one, there's no real fast track to sustain success. You know, if you go from zero to the top, you've not built the foundation of all the things in between. And the quicker you rise, the quicker you fall.
Yeah.
You know, that you've not built the character necessary to stay on top, which is why most people can't handle the type of celebrity status that will come you all's way. And Instagram, social media by itself conditions us to be comparative.
Oh, yeah.
And comparative will cause you to miss the joy of your own journey. So, Jeannette, you say from Rhode Island. All right, we know Robert's from where God starts great things, the South Side of Chicago. But tell us your journey from Rhode Island to DC and how we get here.
Well, first, yes, there are black people in Rhode Island.
You're one, they're two,
Couple,
three,
like so I'm like 50% of the population. But yeah, so I was born and raised in Rhode Island, and my dad was a news junkie, history buff. He loved watching the news. We grew up on Univision, Primer Impacto.
Right.
So it was Spanish news. And for me,
And why is that? Tell us, because I went into the background. Because
my family's Dominican, so
There you
I'd
go.
say about half of them are still in the Dominican Republic. And for me, I saw just how useful it was in that it kept them informed of what was going on back home,
Okay.
what was going on that could affect the Hispanic community. And so I saw very early on that it was more than, like, I didn't see, oh my gosh, these are people on TV, so much as this is such an important job that they're doing informing the community. And so for the longest, though, I thought I was going to be a lawyer and then a singer somewhere in there. And then I realized I don't like to practice. I don't like to write music.
I don't like
This may not
rehearsals.
be where God's leading.
Right, right. It was really like I would do a lot of competitive singing, so singing competitions. And so I was really in it for the money.
Yeah, I used to do that too. I just lost so much, I quit.
But yeah, so when I got to college, so I was an exploratory major, and one of my good friends, I remember he texted me once, and he was like, you know what, you would be a really good journalist. And it was because I enjoyed writing, reading. I enjoyed being in front of the camera, but more as a messenger and not the message. So news was like the perfect match, and I hit the ground running once I got involved. So I graduated from Kent State in Ohio. That's where I went to school.
Okay.
And then I started out in Little Rock. And I met you on the day that I interviewed, actually.
Yep.
I was pulled aside by a fellow reporter. We sat down in the break room. He was kind of giving me the lowdown on the station. And in walks this man with a luchador mask. God forbid I say wrestler mask.
It was luchador. You keep
But
saying
it's specifically,
Spider-Man, but
that's
it
what it was.
luchador,
It's
yeah.
luchador.
There's a lot going on in this story.
And he trips on a bike, trips on a trash can, gets up, like, hey, what's up? My name is Rob. Kind of like
Like a real Chicago dude.
Right,
Just
right.
come at it, man. Okay.
And so I said out loud, because the station wasn't very diverse. I mean, to this day, they've yet to have a black main anchor.
Wow.
And so I said, oh, you're black. And he was like, how did you know? I was like, I can see your hands.
Because you got the mask on.
Right, yeah.
So that's how we first connected, and we started out as really, really good friends for a while. We started dating maybe 8 months in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Little Rock, when you're in a place like that, you're really just paying your dues.
Right.
And I enjoyed it. I mean, you learn a lot. I remember I was terrified of live news, of breaking news. And I would get like these panic attacks and I would get so nervous. And I remember he doesn't get nervous. I get nervous a lot. And I remember I told myself, like, I didn't like how fear had so much control over me when it came to, I would come to work nervous that there would be breaking news. And I remember I told myself, I'm going to make it a point to overcome this. So I would volunteer to cover breaking news so that I would stop being nervous in front of the camera. And then the opportunity came in DC. It was a sports anchor position.
Right, yep.
He applied. There was a reporter position. I wasn't really interested, but I was like, he's not going to leave me here in Little Rock.
Yes.
So I applied to the reporter position. So
from her fear of being left in Little Rock, she applied for the reporter position and got it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this
I
is
didn't
awkward.
get it. Yeah.
Okay, right.
I didn't get
God has a way. God has a way.
Yeah. But I remember he was so happy for me. And he was telling me, you got to go for it. This is a great opportunity. And I took the job, came here to DC, and I passed along his reel to the news director. You ended up getting the call.
Right.
And he came as well. So we were both here, and I was like, this is a lot. I'm going to go to Philly.
There's a story
There
behind that,
was
too.
an opportunity that popped up in Philly at the ABC affiliate. ABC O&O. It's one of the top stations in the country, like 1, 2. Okay. And I took it 2 months before we got married. Our parents were not very happy about that, but it was a big opportunity, and it set me on the path that I'm on today. So we did long distance for 4.5 years.
Wow.
And it was 2 out of 10 do not recommend.
No, not at all.
It was very hard.
Not at all.
I would drive here every weekend. There was one point where we worked opposite shifts, opposite days. So our off days were also off.
Off, yeah.
And we would just catch each other between work schedules for years, like for 2-3 years, maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
And then finally I had an opportunity come up at the station here at Channel 5. And I jumped at it. That was a few months after, I started that job a few months after we started having our viral videos. And things just kind of took off from there.
Yeah.
So before we turn to the personal, I want to wrap up this professional, because I've heard something that I really want to hone in on, is that this isn't just having the skill in front of me in front of the camera. There's a journalistic background, to you all. So it's not just that I can talk in front of a camera. Tell me a little bit about the side of journalism or being on the news that people don't know. What's the most difficult challenge? What have you all struggled with the most? What have you had to overcome?
Do you want to go, or do you want me to go first?
I would say, so in news, you're really tested as an anchor. Because I think most people can read a prompter. You can read words on a,
right.
But you're really tested as an anchor when you can handle breaking news. It can be on anything, and you better know something about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have to be informed, at least know a little about a lot of things.
Yeah,
and typically, that is how you see if an anchor knows their stuff. If they can relay information in a way that's concise, that's accurate, because you have to tread carefully here. Things might not be confirmed. You might be waiting on some information. You might know it, but you can't say it yet.
Unless you're a Fox. Fox News, you say whatever you want.
Network, exactly. Right. Depends on where you are. But yeah, and that is where a lot of folks, I think, underestimate the skill of a journalist. And even live interviewing, you got to catch people when they're saying something that's inaccurate.
Wow.
And if they can say something on your air that is not true and you don't call them out, viewers will call you out. They'll say that they just told this lie on live television.
Wow.
So for me, one of the more challenging things when I first got here was because I did a lot of, I reported out in the field in Philly, but when I anchored, it was very, how do I say it? There was very little time for banter and personality. We didn't do live interviews on air. And so when I got here, it was 5 live interviews a day.
Wow.
I could interview the governor of Virginia, and then, Ashanti, and then a fashion segment, all a wide range of topics. And the most challenging one was a political segment. It was called Monday Morning Quarterbacks. You've got 2 opposing sides, and you've got to moderate and facilitate this discussion in 4 minutes, hit the points that you want to hit, and call out anytime somebody's lying about something.
Wow.
So that for me, the growth from that was really exciting because you see how far you've come. I look at some of my earlier segments and I'm like, why didn't?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, it's different now. 'Cause,
But
you know.
but what was the most challenging thing for you?
I would say not even, well, accuracy.
Yeah.
Same thing with you is the accuracy. And that's something I learned a long time ago in the business is you have to do your due diligence. You have to, like you said, know a little bit about a lot of things.
So this isn't just show up, read the
No.
teleprompter, get in front of the camera.
No, you have to.
Robert, one of the things I was impressed about, and I wanted you to talk about it for just briefly, when I first met you, you were doing sports. Right?
Yes.
And I was proud. I was like, oh, there's a brother doing sports. But honestly, in my mind, I was like, and that's going to be his glass ceiling. Like,
Right.
very rarely do we see young black men anchoring. Jeannette, we got it. You sit in front of the camera, you got a beautiful wife. Right?
Absolutely.
So, right? But I'm looking at Robert going, man, I hope this brother breaks out that unless this leads to some kind of ESPN, what's next? So tell me how you become an anchor and what is the difference between anchoring and just reporting on sports?
So, okay, biggest difference is you just have a better knowledge of sports. I played ball in college, so I know basketball. I watched football on Sundays growing up. Baseball, my dad took me to all-star games when I was young. I just know video games. You just know sports. Now, that's something that, and I don't recommend this to anyone, but that's something where you could walk into the TV station and I'd be able to just talk about anything without even looking at anything because you just know it. You naturally watch ESPN all day. You naturally watch Fox Sports all day. You just naturally watch that. That was my background. The difference in news is, I don't sit around and watch I didn't watch C-SPAN all day.
Right.
I didn't watch CNN all day. I didn't watch Fox News all day. That wasn't my background. Not to say that I didn't know anything or know that what was going on in politics. It just wasn't at top of mind for me. But then I had to. I had to start watching. And she knows I had to start.
Anytime we might be on vacation, Turks and Caicos. I wonder what the news is like.
Let's see what's
like,
on the news now.
Yeah.
Because I just have
Which
to.
obviously it's a good quality to have as a news anchor.
I wasn't Jeannette Reyes. I had to, turn CNN on and see what was going on, or turn whatever.
I like to read a lot of my news.
That too, just.
Well, another professional point then that I think is important, no matter how good you are at something, you still continue to practice it. The mark of a professional is that they make the complicated look very easy. So that people think it's just natural.
Yeah.
A prime example, some people kind of like my preaching. They have no idea it takes 20 to 30 hours every week to be prepared to preach a sermon. I don't just get up on Sundays and go, oh, this was on my mind today. Practicing your craft, honing what you do to become better at it is a challenge for all professionals. And most people never see behind the scene. I would never know that you all watch the news when you're off camera or that you're reading the newspapers or, staying abreast of what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
That seems like it's never ending.
You have to.
That's part of the difficulty of news is that just mentally, when I was reporting in Philly, man, it was just, there was one point I got emotional on live television. Like it just almost started crying because it weighs on you. If you are an empath or just a human who's compassionate, it takes a toll on you. It's the sign of a good reporter because you care. But it can take a toll on you. And so there's that difficulty of you want to be informed because that makes a good reporter, a good journalist. But I remember I ended up having to go to therapy because there was so much, you carry it with you. Like I would check in on the people that I had reported on years prior. I would still check in on their Facebook to see how they were doing. And
well, you cried on air one time.
Yeah. But it's people like that make really good journalists. You want a journalist who cares. Once you become hardened or apathetic, I think your work suffers, right? Because there's that humanity in the work that you're reporting on.
It's got to be tough. I think myself, and I've heard it from hundreds of other people, I just can't watch the news anymore. Like it reaches a point where I don't want to start my day by turning you on Fox or I just don't, or I don't want to know, because it's just too overwhelming.
Yeah.
And the fact you live in it 24/7 is difficult. So I hear talk about therapy. Are there any other ways you manage it? Because maybe that's important for us just as humans to learn how we manage this weightiness of all the evil that's in the world. You've gone to therapy. Anything else you recommend that helps?
I would say therapy is a big thing, but at the same time, so there's this thing that I like to do is I like to watch a lot of documentaries, and it could be about anything. It could be about the Roman Empire. It could be about the Bible.
Right.
It's just, I'm a big documentary guy, and people make fun of me because I watch so many, but that's something that brings me peace.
Wow.
It restores
Yeah.
me. You know, I could sit back and I can watch it all day. I can leave it on for white noise.
Yeah.
But it just kind of takes me away. There's this music that I like to listen to when I, take a shower or when I'm getting ready for something. It's, how would you describe it? It's
Celtic?
Celtic music. Have you ever heard of Enya?
He probably.
No,
I've heard. I've heard.
Enya?
I'm joking. I want to clown you because you're from Southside.
Yeah. But see, you would
Yeah.
never know that I listened to it. But it's just something that kind of.
Yeah, I would say for me, because what I found with news is that it starts to skew, if you watch it too much without a counter to it, it skews your perception of humanity. Like you start thinking the world is just evil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I don't want to be dramatic, but you're just inundated with all of this bad news that you forget there's a lot of good in the world.
Yeah.
And the job of the news is to inform you of what's going on. And encourage you at least to act on that information and vote accordingly, act accordingly, support accordingly. But for me, I had to push myself to go out and see the good in the world because it got to the point where I was I just couldn't see the positive. So I do say take the news in doses. Read, because I think you can be more selective about what kind of news you want to take in and to what extent. And then don't just read the negative just because. Like I say, be intentional about what you're reading and why.
Yeah.
Also, prayer is big too. Prayers.
Are you saying that because it's the past?
Yeah, I'm really glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad you got the prayer part of it. I was about to kick him on the table like, somebody say prayer, Bible, church.
Well, no, I was gonna, but that's that's the first thing I do, and it's never like a long, drawn out prayer. It's just Lord, restore me, lift me, keep me lifted. Little sayings like that throughout the day.
I think that's what Paul means when he says pray without ceasing. It doesn't mean we stay on our knees talking in tongues all day, but there's this continual, I see prayer sometimes as just inviting God into something. Like, God, give me strength.
Yes.
Lord, hold my tongue.
That's it.
That's it. Lord, give me the right thing to say here. Listen, so before we turn to your personal, because I really want to talk about your marriage, what's the most difficult kind of story to report on? What's the one that, I understand the breaking news better, and it helps me understand what your passion is for the world. We had Holly Drains on, and she was saying that as a police officer, getting involved with children being removed from their parents is probably the most difficult cases she's had to deal with. When you see these stories come across your desk, what are the harder ones for you?
For me as a reporter, the hardest ones were the ones involving children, homicides, but especially as a reporter because you are there literally on the worst day of someone's life, that pivotal moment where there's a before and there's an after. There have been times where I was there as they were getting the news, and that stays with you. But especially when it involves children, that's the most difficult.
I think it's the same for me. I think it's the same. Too many times we read these stories about this senseless violence. These kids aren't the target, but they end up in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I remember there was a story about I think it was a 10-year-old girl who was shot on Mother's Day.
Mother's Day, yeah.
It was Mother's Day. She was just coming back from a Mother's Day event and just senseless. Had nothing to do with anything.
Now that I hear you say that, it's got to be difficult to report on that for 35, 45 seconds and then have to turn the page and now on to other things. Realize that we're just talking about the loss of life of a child, which really should make the whole world stop for a moment to grieve together. Turn the page. So you all meet in Little Rock, Arkansas,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yep. Date for a little bit. And we want to know a little bit about the Robert and Jeannette's story that leads you all to the altar, because you had a beautiful wedding, and I understand, the clergy that married you all was really like it was on point.
I mean,
He was all right.
Yeah,
He was all right. He was injured too.
Hey, look,
You know? He like limped down the aisle.
Yeah, I was an injured reserve, man. But, I had the joy of standing in and officiating you all's wedding. So I mark that as one of my victories. Tell us about the love story that brings you together as husband and wife.
Do you want to tell it? Because she doesn't like it when I tell it.
Most women don't like the male version.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think she tells it better.
Wait, what was you talking about? What in particular?
It kind of started with the meeting when I fell over the bike in the garbage can.
And we were good friends. Yeah. A few weeks after we started hanging out, we went to IHOP, and he was like, "Hey, I just want to tell you, Did
you pick up the bill at IHOP?
Well, it declined, but he did pick it up.
Do you want to start with that story?
To his credit.
Yeah.
He was creditless, clearly. But,
yeah.
But no. It
was a good offer, man.
Hey, I was trying.
He looked at the waiter like, I tried.
Hey, I ain't got it, man.
But no, so he was like, I just want to let you know I got feelings for you. I really like you. And I was like, that's cute. I really appreciate the bravery that it took.
But I don't like you back?
But no, because I didn't really... I don't know what it was. I didn't really see you as...
You probably looked at me like a friend, like a funny friend.
Well, here's the thing with Robert. He didn't have a lineup. He would have these like...
Yeah, well, time out. All right. This is, all right, I'm in Little Rock, and I was kind of like, I had kind of lost my swagged out ways, if you will.
He just did not care. I was like, first off, we got to get you a new suit. We got to get you a lineup. I'm kidding.
Well,
but
and then
no,
at this time, you don't have, at these
way.
jobs, remember, you don't have a lot of money.
Right.
So you
got one good suit, man.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
But no, we were really good friends. And then I forgot how things, like why and when things really transitioned. But we started dating and I think for people, it was like, finally, it's about time y'all started dating.
Yeah. Then, your mom was also big.
My mom, that's what it was. I asked her, I was like, what do you think about Robert? And it was almost like, finally, she's asking me the question. Because she was just like, I like him for you. I like him a lot. And that was actually when I started looking at you differently. And then you Venmo'd my mom afterwards. But,
that went through?
It did. Interestingly enough, yeah. Remember what your mom said when we told her about the card story?
Oh, yeah. When I told my mom that my card declined, and she looked at Jeannette like, and you stayed with him? So even she was shocked.
Yeah.
But what I liked about Robert is we just had a really good time. Like I'd lost my father a year before we met, actually. And I hadn't laughed that much in a really long time. In fact, it was with you that I really cried for the first time, because I held on to that for a while. When for Valentine's Day, he got me a bracelet. I told him my dad had really good penmanship and was really big on us having great penmanship. And he reached out to my sister, got a document with my dad's signature on it, and had it engraved on a charm stone for a charm bracelet for Valentine's Day. So he was thoughtful, he was funny, he was humble, and he was just a kind person. And I loved that. And I could build with him, right? Like, I can only speak to my relationship, but I love that we were able to build something together, and we can look back on that with pride, and we have a shared vision. And, he was a praying man. Like he loved the Lord. We went to church together. And that, for me, when it came to starting a family, having that foundation and that leadership was important to me.
How long did you all date?
Oh, before we got married?
Yeah.
3 years.
3 years? Yeah, it was 3 good, long years.
So I hear friendship, which is a foundation for any marriage that's going to last and make it through. There was a statement once that you would do something to someone you love that you would never do to your friend, right? That we sometimes treat friends better than the people we say we love. I'm glad to hear the friendship. Every great love story has the proposal story. I got to know the proposal. How'd it go down?
This is good.
Robert,
can I tell this?
Yeah, we want you.
All right.
Yeah.
So, we all know the story of how my card declined.
When it starts off like
IHOP.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
How my card declined at IHOP. So, we had dinner at Ruth's Chris. This is a very humble proposal, because now people do wild stuff. But,
Yeah.
just dinner. And I told the waiter I said, hey, when you, should I start when the lady, should I start when the lady almost messed it up?
Just say it.
Okay. So I told the waiter, I said, hey, make sure you come back. When you come back, when I give you the card, come back and say my credit card declined. And so he came back, and then he said, hey, I'm sorry, the card you have on file, it declined. And so I looked at her.
I just brought my lip liner and lipstick.
She didn't have any money. She
She
didn't have any money. This is like before Apple Pay too, I think. But she was like, I looked at her, I said, remember that time when my card declined? And then what did you say?
Robert, I don't
care
about
I don't care about any of that right now. You have to pay the bill. So then I was like, remember that time? And
So you did not see this coming.
No,
not
no.
at all. She was like, I don't care.
Even though a woman almost gave it away earlier in the day that he was proposing.
Yeah, sure did. Anyway,
Aren't you supposed to be proposing today?
Yeah, wow.
But anyway.
Ain't you supposed to be? And so, but yeah, so I got down on one knee and I told her, I said, that's when I knew you were the one. Is, you didn't run off, you stuck with me, and so I said, will you marry me? And then everybody started clapping, and then what'd you say at the end?
Oh, I said, Robert, the ring.
You got to put the ring on. You got to put the ring on. Because I was just sitting there with the ring.
Hello.
But yeah, so I put the ring on. I had one of my photographers from the station come out the back room.
Poor guy. He was in a closet for
the
2
whole
hours.
time.
He was sweating.
The whole time. Yeah, but it was, that was
Sweet.
a proposal story. And yeah, it wasn't like a big thing where we were on the beach and
sweet, though.
pebbles.
It was very romantic.
But
Very
it was,
thoughtful.
yeah, it was, I think it was the right thing.
So now you're married. You're managing these careers. I want to bring you on to be an inspiration to folk who are married, who are thinking about it. How do you balance demanding career and marriage? What are some of the keys to making this work?
I'll go for it.
Okay.
I will say, especially given that we did long distance for 4.5 years. So we started off the first 4.5 years of our marriage as a long distance marriage. So we were really put to the test. Learning from, I guess I say this, what's the saying? Like we learned from our mistakes.
Yeah.
We didn't start out well.
Yeah.
Over communicating. And what I mean by that is being proactive in communicating when you have an issue, because what we ended up doing was a lot of things festered for a while. And so it's so much easier, even marital counseling. We did that after the fact. And you're untangling this mess. And it's so much easier to prevent the wounds than to have to treat them.
Wow.
And
It's easier to prevent the rooms than to treat them.
It's my biggest regret. I did not realize how much I had let fester that I didn't see. And so we were communicating from a place of pain and hurt and resentment without the other person realizing it. We also were, they talk about love languages and all of that. But I was loving him in the way that I received love.
I got it.
And then was getting frustrated when he wasn't appreciative of it. And the same for you. Like, I'm really big on quality time. You are good with acts of service. So he would do all of these things, like he would make sure the house was clean and all of that when I got here from Philly. But I wanted to spend time together because I had 48 hours. So we bumped heads a lot. And then when we went to couples counseling, marital counseling, it opened up our eyes.
Yeah.
Let me commend you all, because I don't think a lot of people share transparently the need to go to counseling.
Yeah.
Right? If you think the marriage is worth it, go to counseling, make the investment. Because we tend to go into marriage thinking we can just handle it. That we just do it, then marriage just happens. And it does not. It's a grind and work. So I'm grateful that you all are open to share that the counseling helped.
I would say don't wait till something bad happens to go to counseling. You should be doing that. I would even say, if you're serious about in a relationship, period, go to counseling.
Yeah.
It helps so much.
I say it's almost like they can translate or interpret for your partner, because oftentimes it's almost like he was speaking Russian and I was speaking Spanish, and you're yelling at the top of your lungs, and the other person's not receiving what you're saying. All they see is your emotion and that you're upset and that you're crying,
Yeah.
and they interpret it through their lens. And so that counselor, I had you pick it out pick him out because I wanted to make sure. I think I'm probably a better communicator when it comes to our relationship. You've gotten much, much better because he can shut down a little bit. And I can kind of take up a lot of that space where I'm doing a lot of that talking, and it shuts you down. Yeah. And when I wanted him to pick a counselor that he felt could really listen, like, how do I say it? That there would be no excuse, no reason for him to think. You picked somebody that works for you. Right?
Yeah.
So I wanted him to have that that control in the beginning, to pick someone that he felt really, really got him and understood him. And he's great.
Yeah. No, he is. He really is, man. It's just, I would say, do it as early as you can.
Yeah.
It's expensive though, because when we first found him, we were like, it's just,
this side is he don't take insurance.
we were like, we can kind of fix this ourselves. In fact, we made the appointment and everything. It was after an argument. We made the appointment, and by the time the appointment came around, we kind of figured things out. We're like,
well, we gotta go do this.
We're good. Like, what is there to talk about?
Yeah, let's save the money.
Done.
Right.
And that I regret that day so much, because we didn't end up meeting with him until 3 years later.
Wow.
And the way the relationship had been so damaged between that day and when we finally met with him.
Oh yeah.
Could have been prevented.
Oh my gosh.
All of it.
We were this close and canceled.
Yeah. So listen, one of the things I've enjoyed about your marriage is there is this laughable, funny side that is on Instagram and TikTok. You all have just a beautiful rapport with one another that I wait for you to post, because I like laughing at Robert. Like, I love watching.
He's a natural.
Like so what prompted that, and how has that played into the dynamics of your marriage?
I think, well, so when I first met her, I made her laugh a lot. I'm just a naturally goofy guy.
I'm a funny dude.
I'm a funny guy. I mean, hey, no, I'm not gonna say I'm not Chris Rock, but I just, my friend and I, the one you just met, my best friend. We always made people laugh in high school. Same thing for me in college. I was just a really,
but
goofy
it's because
guy.
You don't take yourself seriously.
But I don't take, and it's not fake. This is really who I am.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of goofy. And
I love watching, especially the comedic side of him not speaking Spanish. Like, I love this part of your relationship.
Listen, we're still working on it.
Yeah, I'm trying.
I got on Rosetta Stone, and a couple weeks later, the discs were just randomly around the house. Just never nothing. Didn't learn nothing.
Well, Dominican Spanish is
I
different than.
He says we speak too fast, and so we're the problem.
They do. They do, man.
If I were Mexican,
all Spanish isn't equal, right?
Right.
Slow down. No, I'm just joking.
And something amazing happened to you all's world about 18 months ago.
That's right. Our beautiful baby girl, Isabella.
Tell me about Isabella.
The star of the family, really. I'm not gonna say she looks like me. I'll let you say that.
You don't have to say it.
Okay.
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But she does. I gotta be honest. She favors her dad. It's a daddy. She's gonna be a daddy's girl, right?
She's a daddy's girl, man. And I do. I'm biased, but I think she's the most beautiful baby on the planet.
That's what you should think about your daughter.
Right. I think she is.
How's it changed you?
You know what? I think that's a good question. So I just talked about how goofy I can be, but I think I've scaled that back a little bit. I do feel like I've scaled that back a little bit, because before Bella, it was nonstop for me. It didn't matter where we were or what. I remember how I would embarrass us in public, right?
Yeah.
Just antics. But
you think Bella's changed that in you?
I think so. Okay. I think so. I think now with Bella, I'm a dad now. I'm responsible for a human. It's just, I don't know. I think it's just sort of subconsciously, hey, my dad was, he was a funny guy, but I saw him as a serious, guy. I saw him as an authority. So I think I feel like I have to turn into my dad because now I have a daughter. So I have to kind of show maturity. And so I think, that's kind of, if that makes any sense at all.
What about you, Jeannette? How's it changed you?
I think it's put a lot of things into perspective, what matters in life, spending more time with family. I mean, I've spent much of my adult life working a job either in the middle of nowhere in a city where I don't have family with, not a lot of vacation days, working the holidays. And so a lot of it has been work. And when you have a child, you start to reevaluate what really matters in life. And for me, she was a big factor in my most recent decision to decide to enjoy life a little bit more. Hi, Bella. Watch out.
Don't trip over that there. Watch her trip right over it. Oh. No, she good.
Hi. She's gonna go to you, watch.
Hey.
Hey,
Say
Bella.
hi.
Hey.
She's like, where's my daddy?
Hey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bella.
Hey.
Say
Speaking
hi.
to the mic.
Hi.
Wow. She does look like her dad.
Right.
Hi.
Yeah. I give up on that. People tell you, like, sometimes it comes a little later. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
So the comments I see most often when I post her is, your jeans didn't even put up a fight. Or, girl, were you
even in the room?
Well,
so-
but Robert, we haven't seen the personality develop yet. So trust me,
Yeah.
if you get the physical, she may get mama's whole mental and,
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're going to go with that one, right?
well, Robert and Jeannette, it's been a joy to have you all on. You're an inspiration to me, to our church family, the model of witness of your marriage and your daughter. I pray God's best for you all.
Thank you.
And I pray that this story continue to add chapter after chapter after chapter, and God's blessing be upon you all. Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
us.
Thank you so much,
Appreciate
Pastor.
it.
Alfred Street, I keep telling you, there's some amazing folk doing amazing things within our church family. You just met two of them. Next time you see them in church, ask for an autograph, all right? Hey, this is Pastor Wesley. We'll catch you next time for another episode of Meet the Street.